Now we'll move on to conduct of business, please.
Item 7A, receive report on Rule 20A Underground Utility District and provide direction to staff.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, Jimmy Tan, Public Works Director. The presentation tonight is on Rule 28 Underground Utility District. The objective of the presentation is to provide the City Council with a brief background and an update on Rule 28, discuss the recent events, and request the City Council to provide direction to staff regarding whether or not to establish a Rule 28 Underground Utility District. The agenda is as follows. I'll provide some information on the background of Rule 28. Then I'll answer questions that you're probably thinking of. Why are we discussing Rule 28? And also the council, to show the council various Rule 28 projects that the city has completed. Next, I'll briefly go over the Rule 28 requirements, then provide the proposed underground district locations, and talk about the current Rule 28 status in terms of our available work credits, and some options the council could consider. And lastly, discuss the staff's recommendation and the next steps. So since 1967, conversion of overhead electrical utilities to underground in California is performed under California Public Utilities Commission, Rule 20. There are three different parts, Parts A, B, and C. Part A is funded by PG&E. Parts B and C are funded through entities other than PG&E ratepayers, such as governmental agencies or private entities through establishment of maintenance districts. The way it works is that PG&E allocates Rule 28 work credits to communities to finance the conversion of overhead to underground infrastructure. The work credits are to be used for undergrounding of local distribution lines, which delivers electricity to neighborhoods and are generally supported by wooden poles, and not these high voltage transmission lines. The work credits are distributed in proportional to the number of customers' accounts, and San Bruno gets approximately about $150,000 per year. So what is the purpose of undergrounding the utilities? One is to improve the aesthetics. Being that the overhead utilities contain numerous wires for electric, telephone, and fiber, is very unsightly. The other is to remove the exposure of the utilities to the uncertainty of weather, high winds and rain events or vehicle collisions. During high wind events, the overhead utilities can detach from a fallen tree, creating public safety issues. So by undergrounding the utilities, it increases the service reliability and public safety. So the City of San Bruno has an ordinance in our municipal code, Section 8.28, authorizing the City Council to designate areas where overhead utilities exist and to form an undergrounding district. But the first thing the city must do is to identify the project that's in the interest of the public and pass a resolution forming an underground district. Then the accrued Rule 28 work credits can be used to pay for the costs related to the undergrounding. So if the existing funding is inadequate, the city may borrow forward the future work credits from PG&E for a maximum of 5 years. So why are we discussing Rule 28 now? Well, recently, California Public Utilities Commission passed a resolution E-491, which would take away or transfer Rule 28 work credits from inactive cities to and transfer it to the city of Live Oak, which is near Yuba City. Many agencies are affected by this passage of the resolution, and San Bruno is one of those communities. So a total of approximately $554,000 of unused work credits will be transferred from communities that haven't participated in the Rule 28 program over the past 8 years to the city of Live Oak. So for San Bruno, it's estimated that about $29,272 will be transferred to that city. So in order to avoid any transfer of work credits, agencies have until March 11th this year to become active. And in order to do so, the city must satisfy the following. Formally adopt an undergrounding district, start or completed construction of an undergrounding conversion project within the last 8 years from 2011 on, or receive Rule 28 allocation from PG&E for only 5 years or fewer due to recent incorporation. So unfortunately, we don't qualify for any of these items, items 2 and 3. Therefore, adoption of an undergrounding district is our only choice. So although the city hasn't participated or hasn't established in any undergrounding district in a while, because the city has been practicing, the practice is to accumulate the Rule 28 funds until an impactful project can be implemented. So, so this is the option that we should consider, which is to form the underground district. So the city has completed undergrounding of overhead utilities in the past. This map shows the locations and years of when the projects were completed. So as noted on the slide, the oldest project was back in 1962 along El Camino between San Bruno Avenue and Santa Helena Avenue. And the latest project the city completed was in 1997 along Huntington Avenue between Forest Lane and Angus Avenue. So the other two main corridors that were undergrounded include the entire length of Sneath Lane from Skyline to Huntington Avenue and San Bruno Avenue from Skyline to 7th and San Bruno Avenue. So to form an undergrounding district, staff contacted the PG&E representative to obtain additional information. PG&E rep mentioned that agencies must select an undergrounding district location in the general public interest that satisfy one or more of these reasons that you see on the slide. The first, the undergrounding will avoid or eliminate heavy concentration of overhead electrical facilities. Second, the street or roadway is extensively used by the general public and carries heavy volume of pedestrian or vehicle traffic. And third, the street or roadway passes through a civic area, public recreation area, or an area of unusual scenic interest to the public. Fourth, the street or roadway is considered an arterial or a major collector. So based on our discussion with PG&E rep, there are several locations that the city can select to form an undergrounding district. And these locations have been vetted by PG&E and will qualify to be for the Route 28 monies work credits to be used. So these locations are noted in green, and there's a table at the bottom left-hand corner that shows the street locations as well as the linear footage of the undergrounding and an estimated cost. So the locations include Huntington Avenue from Angus to San Felipe, Mastic Avenue from Angus to Taylor, Taylor Avenue from El Camino to Mastic, Angus Avenue from El Camino to Huntington Avenue, San Felipe from El Camino to Huntington, Mason from San Bruno Avenue to Angus, and then Crystal Springs Road from Cunningham to El Camino, and Genevieve Avenue from Cunningham Way to Poplar. So the current status of Route 28 work credit is shown on the slide. As of November 2019, the city has more than 6 million work credits. Each work credit is equivalent to $1. So within the box, there is a calculation that includes reallocation of about $29,000 to the city of Live Oak. If the city chooses not to form an undergrounding district, the city will still have a balance of approximately $6 million. So what are our options? Well, first, the city can choose to not form an undergrounding district. As previously mentioned, there will be a transfer of about $29,000 from our work credit to the city of Live Oak. Second, establish an undergrounding district. This will secure or avoid the transfer of the work credits. And lastly, the city can choose to trade or sell the work credits to other interested communities. So based on our discussion with PG&E representatives, the city could expect to receive only about 50% on the dollar for these funds. So with $6 million work credit that we have, we can get the cash for about $3 million for if we do sell our work credits. So based on all the different streets locations shown in the previous slide, staff is currently recommending to establish an underground district along Crystal Springs Road between Cunningham Way and El Camino. And the reason for this corridor is that the Crystal Springs Road meets all of the criteria listed in the PG&E's requirements. The road has heavy concentration of overhead electrical facilities, carries a heavy volume of pedestrian and vehicle traffic. The road also, joins the public recreation area, which is City Park, and is also a part of the scenic corridor. And the road is also considered an arterial street. So the total length is approximately 3,700 feet, and then total cost to underground the entire length, ECR to El Camino to Cunningham Way, is about $7.4 million. And this cost is based on the most recent undergrounding projects, which range between $1,000 to $2,000 per foot. So with an estimated cost of $7.4 million, the city would have a shortfall of about $1.3 million if the entire length is undergrounded. So therefore, reducing the length from Donner to ECR El Camino is recommended. So this slide shows the boundary limits of the undergrounding project along Crystal Springs Road from Donner to El Camino. The properties within the red areas shown will be affected if the undergrounding project is implemented. The overhead service lines to those properties will need to be undergrounded as well. So here are the next steps. First we need to hold a public hearing on February 25th to establish an undergrounding district. Then staff will also publish a notice of public hearing in advance of the council meeting. And staff will send letters to those properties that are affected within that red area, and so request them to attend the council meeting if they haven't choose to speak on any concerns about that of the project. So this concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from council? Laura?
Jimmy, clarifying question on the funding. So it's been since 1997 since we've done the last project, but you can see now that over years, I'm sure that allocation of points is continuing to increase a little bit. So it's many years to build up this $6 million in points. So it makes sense why we haven't done something in a number of years. And to understand that there's this new law that basically says if we don't use it, if we don't participate in the program, we would lose funding. But what's the requirement? What's considered? So we go to use this money toward this project, and then we let it sit for the next 20 years. When are we in jeopardy again of losing those funds?
Yeah, that's something that hasn't been determined. So I think right now, this resolution that has passed is for this immediate work credits, the requirements are there. I'm assuming that the same requirements may apply in future, instances as well.
So it may be that you get to a certain amount of points,
Correct.
and then you start to lose some. They take some off. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Javon Grogan, city manager. The prior arrangement had been you could just let your credits accumulate and you would not lose any credits. I think increasingly the balance of available credits statewide has
Statewide was
had
probably pretty high.
the CPUC look at it and say, well, if we just, some other cities have projects, they don't have enough money, and these other cities are sitting on large sums of money, and they don't have a project, nor do they have a district. If we just pull a little bit from everyone, we could fund these other areas that want to use a project, that want to do a project. And one of the concerns we have is that more orders like this may come down later on to increasingly decrease money from cities that do not have a district. And so essentially, if we create a district now, we protect ourselves. The other thing I want to elaborate on is the district boundaries is from El Camino Real all the way up to Cunningham.
Gotcha.
The potential project with the $6 million that we have now would go from El Camino Real to Donner. However, what Jimmy also noted is that there is the ability for the city to borrow against 5 years of future credit. And so you could establish the full district. There's currently a $1.3 million gap. If you borrow 5 years, that is $750,000. That drops your gap down to $550,000 to do the entire length. Now, that sort of takes it to be not an insurmountable sum that if the city council did want to divert funds from another capital project or wait till we had other funds available to sort of make a full project. So I just want to let the council know that while the full project is estimated to be just over $7 million and we only have $6 million, it's not necessarily an insurmountable task. And so establishing the district and then looking at various options to fund it could be something that happens in the future.
Well, I think you've made a good recommendation in terms of the area that you've chosen in San Bruno, because I think it's a well utilized street. It's populated by people walking, and so I think it's an excellent choice. So thank you.
Thank you.
Marty?
I agree. Is there a way to, I don't want to get it too complicated, but when we're working on the new recreation aquatic center of that area that's behind on Crystal Spring Road, and because those trees are really high and there's some wires there. To try to get everything done at the same, well, that's probably going to make it too complicated. So let's just go ahead. I'm in favor of this project. And I guess we'll talk about it at a CIP meeting, because I'll bore you guys right now. But I think it'd be nice to the trees there from here to Crystal, I'm sorry, to the city park, they're overgrown, and I walked by there for a little bit today and saw that one of the trees by the church did fall down and was cut by staff, I'm assuming, and it'd be nice to kind of clarify that area, and that seems like the right spot to do it. So I'm in support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael?
Thank you. So are there specific requirements for creating a district, and why wouldn't we create a district around each of the areas that have been identified as potential spots?
Yeah, normally I think what we've seen is, people specify a certain location, a specific location for the district. That's something, that's something that we would have to discuss with PG&E on whether we can actually create a district for all the recommended streets that you've seen on the one of the slides. But normally what we've researched on online with other communities is just mainly a single corridor locations for undergrounding districts.
But there's not necessarily a requirement that there be funding available to do a project within the district. You just basically say, here's one that meets these 5
Criteria,
or
correct.
4
One of the
criteria.
Exactly, correct.
Okay. And looking at Huntington, so Huntington is one that falls within the dollar amount of what's available in our fund right now. That stretch is, it has a side of the street without any houses on it. It's I know it's I believe Caltrain property, but it's pretty much just wooded, so it would kind of lend itself well to trenching and putting stuff in. Why not consider that one?
Well, I believe that we selected Crystal Springs Road because it has a lot more use for public, and it's also right next to the city park. A lot of the overhead utilities there, there's a lot more trees at that location as well. So during heavy storms events, you could have trees coming down and hitting these power lines. So I think it met a lot of the criteria that PG&E had in their as part of those reasons that I mentioned earlier. And so that's the reason why we selected Crystal Springs Road.
Okay. No, I agree. Yeah, I think it is a good location. I was just wondering. The other one seemed easier, and it was also within budget, so I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Linda?
So if approved, when would this project begin?
We don't have a current timeline yet on this, because I think once it's approved, we would have to assess the schedule for this, right? So I think we have to go through a public hearing. There's a lot of design components that needs to be done. It could take a couple of years before any construction activities will take place, because there's a lot of coordination that needs to be done, not just in terms of with just PG&E utilities, but with other utilities that are also on the pole right now, with all the communication utilities that are there. So making sure that they'll be able to transfer their utilities below grade and be able to provide the same type of services to the residential properties.
Okay, so when this project begins, who will pay for the repaving of the streets, and how will that be done?
Yeah, it would be at our city's cost to repave the roadways. Yeah.
And can we align those then to make sure that we're not doing the underground utilities and then repaving at a different time, so that everything's
Correct.
aligning together?
Sure.
And then my other question is, does that mean that the poles will come down that are all along that entire area?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
If I can, I want to clarify. By taking the action that council has taken today, you are not approving a project. You're creating the district for essentially monies to accumulate for the specific project. I do think that staff in the normal CIP planning will continue to bring this higher on the list, and we can look into putting together a dedicated effort around making the project a reality, and then that just has to go into our normal CIP planning and priorities. But even if we had a dedicated effort today, I mean, this is at least a 2 to 3 year effort before ground is being broke on it. It's also worth pointing out that if this project was done and the city wanted to repave the street to have a nice smooth surface over everything, that would be on our cost. Within the project budget does cover capping the trench and repaving over that. And so should it be possible to sort of time this project right before Crystal Springs is up for repaving, that can be done. I think the biggest challenge with that is we just repaved Crystal Springs. And so that means you wouldn't do this project for quite some time. And so you know, I think that's I mean, I think it was just repaved last year.
Yeah,
in
slurry
sealed in 2019.
Yeah.
And so if that will last 5 or 7 years.
5 or 7 years.
You know, you'd be looking at beginning this project somewhere in the 5 to 10 year range from now.
So then I was going to actually ask about Crystal Springs being repaved, just to make sure that we're aligning our efforts and our finances. Does that mean that Crystal Springs is, I understand why that was selected, but is there another area that maybe we could create the district around that hasn't been repaved so that we can get not just the repaving done, but also the district plan actually moving sooner than 5 to 10 years from now?
Yeah, so a lot of the streets will be repaved. I think Genevan has been repaved when we did the sewer replacement project. Huntington Avenue, that location will also be repaved. The city has grants already in place for that. Those Taylor, Mastic in that area will be repaved as well as part of the Avenues 1-1, 1-2 project. So the only location that I'm seeing that won't be, well, I don't know whether we repave, I think we repaved a portion, or we're going to repave a portion of Masson Avenue as well. So the only thing that I'm thinking, well, even Angus Avenue West, it's been repaved too from ECR to Huntington. So I think a lot of the locations will be repaved, what we've selected, except for Crystal Springs Road. We didn't do a full repaving there. We did a slurry seal after the sewer construction project. But that's something that, would be a good candidate.
Through the chair.
Laura.
Oh, did you have another question? I'm sorry. I just want to say, I do remember the Huntington back in 1997, and I will tell you what a difference it made to that area. It really was beautiful after it was done. And so I think with the new community center coming, I think we shouldn't really look at the short-sighted piece of the paving, even though we repaved it last year, because I think it's going to come up again in 5 years, and we're going to need to repave it. I really do think that Crystal Springs Road is an ideal. It is an essential part of our city, which is used by so many of our community members, and to only continue to beautify that area is just a win-win.
Any other questions or comments from council? I show this is just provide direction to staff, and therefore staff is asking if we wish to go ahead and have a public hearing to establish the underground district. Is council in concurrence with giving staff that direction?
Yes.
All 5 are saying yes. Do you have what you need?
Yes,
Mr.
thank
Tan?
you.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to move on to item 8, comments from council members. Marty, anything?
Yeah. So this is a message to people that know veterans or that are veterans. Today I attended a free barbecue lunch at the VA clinic on Sneath Lane. I got a late invite to that, so I wasn't able to put that on social media, but it occurs every second Tuesday. It's a free barbecue provided by a bunch of veterans that just want to do something for veterans, and it's right at the VA clinic. So you can get 2 for 1. You can get, your body checked out, and you can also get a hot dog and a piece of cheesecake. So that's what they had out there today. So just pass out the information for those veterans out there, and it's for free.
Laura.
Thank you. There's a comment that was made earlier tonight that kind of caught me off guard because I felt like if you really only knew what the city did and staff members did and the council members did, you wouldn't make that comment. And the comment was that the city should think about or have the approach of not what we can't do, but what we can do. And I think that it's an unfair comment because I think that the staff really is dedicated to this city. And there's a lot that the staff does, and there's a lot that our city manager does and brings forward. And in the last 2 years, I've been very proud to be a council member in terms of the work that we're doing. There was a booklet that we got handed last year at some point with all the projects and things that were going on. And that's what we can do and what we're doing, and we're getting things done. The council set out our strategic objective in terms of projects we wanted to complete and the things we want to do, and we're moving along with those and we're getting them done. And we're going to talk about that again this year. So I think what I feel is that we just need to do better about how we communicate those things that we do out. We're making great strides and we're making differences. And so I just want to thank staff for the hard work that you do. We appreciate it. I think for a lot of us who are on the council that know what you do, thank you for the dedication, and I see just keep doing the great work.
Linda?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if we're going to be receiving any update on developments with timelines, in particular the Aquatic Center and the Florida Park project?
City manager.
Yes, we will be sending the city council the next PowerPoint that we provide we are set on March 4th to provide an update on the Aquatic and Rec Center to the foundation board. We will send that information to the council. In your city council, mayor and council office, you have nearly 1,000 pages of the draft EIR that is out, and staff is doing the page turn on that, and are a number of hours into turning it and reviewing every page on that. That is set to go to the Planning Commission in April, and then to come to the City Council in May for action. And we are on track to put out construction documents on the Aquatic and Rec Center. This year, we are currently in the process of drafting a draft agreement for temporary location for the Aquatic and Rec Center, with the hopes still tracking toward breaking ground early 2021. But we will absolutely provide council with that PowerPoint update.
In Florida Park?
Oh, and Florida Park is scheduled to come to the City Council. I believe we are aiming for the March 10th or second meeting in March. What that is we need to do the final design drawings for Florida Park. And we, this week, we're just reviewing a bid from the MIG, the landscape architect, to do those final drawings. And so we'll get that contract before the City Council as soon as possible. But I believe we're aiming for one of the meetings in March, and I believe it's the first one.
Okay, thank you.
Michael?
Since the draft EIR for the rec center came up, I just wanted to thank staff for getting that to us ahead of time. It is a huge document. I'm about halfway through it, but I definitely appreciate not getting that just before a meeting. So thank you for getting that to us.
Okay, anything else, council?